Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. And I'm excited to welcome to the show today a friend and client of mine, Jeanelle, who is the founder of Womb Health FM. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk all things fertility, as well as her fertility journey and the journey she takes her clients on in a variety of offerings through Womb Health FM. So, Jeanelle is a board certified nurse midwife, as well as a certified functional and integrative medicine practitioner. She's also a daughter of Guam and Saipan with over a decade of clinical experience in women's health. And after years of watching women get dismissed by the conventional fertility system, she built Womb Health FM, a virtual fertility coaching practice designed to give women everywhere access to the kind of care she believes every woman deserves, clinically grounded, deeply personal, and rooted in the belief that transformative fertility care can happen naturally. Now she helps women get pregnant and stay pregnant by restoring the foundations of lifestyle, nutrition, herbs, supplements, and advanced functional approaches that most fertility clinics won't even mention. Her philosophy isn't about forcing the body, but it really is about teaching women to understand what their body is already communicating and giving it a space to heal. She blends her clinical background with yoga, herbalism, mentorship from fertility experts, and naturopathy doctors, her proprietary womb awakening program as well. She's not choosing between science and intuition, but she's using both. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about the jump that she made from being a midwife to now being an entrepreneur and running her business, Womb Health. We're also going to talk about some common myths when it comes to fertility and hormone health. She's going to share a little bit about her own experience and fertility journey, and overall just offer a ton of insight and wisdom into practical ways that we can be thinking about our health and hormones and just whole body wellness. So I loved getting to connect with Jeanelle in this episode, and I can't wait to share it with you. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, founder of Eno Wellness Collective. My wellness journey started with yoga, which led me down the path of exploring healing modalities like meditation, breath work, sound healing, mindset work, and so much more. This exploration inspired my mission to help others find what lights them up. Get comfortable and curious as we learn from experts, teachers, and creators who are lighting up their communities and living an inspired, expansive life. Let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. And I'm so excited to welcome to the show today, Jeanelle. So welcome. So excited to have you here.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Liv.
I know we were going to do this in person when you were on Guam recently. And so I'm glad that we were able to schedule it to at least get us virtually, because I'm so excited to share your work and just what you're doing and just what you're all about. And, you came into my world, through Eno Wellness, hosting a workshop at Eno Wellfest. And then since then, you've become a client of mine going through Rise in the Line. You've come to Siargao to retreat with me. You'll be in Bali in a couple of months again with me. So I'm so excited to know you on a personal level and know like the behind the scenes of you and your life, and also see the professional side and what you're bringing to the world and just your light work. And so let's kick it off. So I know that, one of what I find so interesting about your journey is that you have over a decade in clinical experience, right? As a nurse and a midwife, before anything that you're doing now, you have had like a past life, right? Like a past career, a past journey. So before we get into your focus today, I would love for you to share a little bit about, the lessons you learned with that decade of experience and what sparked you to then now start Womb Health and really focus on your own journey and healing path.
Yeah, there is actually so much that I could share on that. And I find it like really amazing or intriguing that you chose the words past life, because this truly is something that I know that I have done in multiple past lives. And so, yeah, I mean, I like have been on this journey of serving women, and been always drawn to mothers and babies, and since I was like 10 years old. Um, and at least, in this lifetime, this is the story. And I remember hearing my very first birth story from my cousin when I was 10. And since then, I do feel like that seed was planted. My consciousness was like, yes, I am connected with these people. These are my people, pregnant women, babies, ushering in the souls. And so, without really knowing it back then, that was that was my path where it all started. And then, really, I mean, in high school, I would watch like baby story marathons, if anyone remembers, from the Learning Channel. And every single time a woman gave birth in that moment, even, if I was in a separate room, just like hearing her sounds of like that moment of birth is like a transformation that like nothing else can fill or replace. And in those moments, it would just always take my breath away. And so there was just such a deep connection, always from the beginning. And my mom was like, "You should become a nurse." And I did that and stepped into my nursing career, and then loved all parts of nursing. I was like, I love helping people. I am a healer. This is how I identify. I, knew that I was always going to get to labor and delivery, but my first job at GMH was in labor and delivery. And so, you know, I was set on that path, and um, ultimately, always in each phase of my career, it was always, how can I serve women on a deeper level? How can I do more for women? And so as a nurse, I was only like carrying out orders and doing what the doctors told me to do, right? And I'm like, there's only so much that I could advocate for as a nurse, and realize like I got to step into another role where I have more like power and authority so that I can be a better guide for these women. And so then I became a nurse midwife. And today is actually my 10-year anniversary of like sitting for my board
Wow.
March 31st, 10 years ago. And so I think that's like really amazing and serendipitous. So I've been a midwife for 10 years. And then again, like in this 10 years, it's been so amazing, like just getting to witness so many births and the power of women and those transformations in the labor room. And there's really, there's really no words that can even express like the joy that I got with this path of midwifery. Um, but now have kind of shifted into the next phase, of going deeper. It's like helping women during their pregnancies, preparing them for labor was amazing. But then now I'm like taking it a step up, which is also in a way a step back and deeper into like root cause healing, into preparing their bodies for healthy pregnancies and healthier babies. So
Mhm.
if we like think about that whole trajectory, it's always like, okay, what's the next level and how can I go deeper with serving the woman, and heal, like kind of having this like deeper impact on the next generation also.
Mm. Yeah, that's the theme I hear in your journey too. It's like following your intuition of like, I know on a soul level, I'm supposed to be doing this type of work, but using every step is like, okay, like almost like a sign of like, go
Uh-huh.
deeper, go deeper, right? And like kind of like the calling to like expand in what ways you support women and mothers. I remember during, some of our Rise and Align calls, even that you're like, I just witnessed, a birth. I'm just coming from a birth and into the call, right? And just like the beauty of getting to do that and just to have like
Yeah.
a front row experience to that. Like I know it's probably hard to like count, how many births you've witnessed, but like generally, how many do you feel like you've been a part of?
Yeah, I have been I've been a part of over 1,000 births in this life.
1,000? Whoa, crazy.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's a
So
lot of
you've
births.
seen the range.
Yeah, and that's as a midwife, and then before that, I was a nurse, witnessing birth, so there's countless more births that I had witnessed, but, like,
Yes.
as a midwife,
Be part of.
helped women
Yeah.
and delivered, over 1,000 babies. Yeah,
Okay.
it's amazing.
So what was the moment then for you that you decided I'm going to start to branch off and do something different? I'm going to be start my own, business. I'm going to start to coach. I'm going to start to create programs. Like was there a moment in time that you're like this is when I do it, or was it more of a drawn out process?
I think that there was a moment that, like, that triggered the the need to start my own business, and that was during COVID. Um, it was just like, wow, I cannot be in this system, especially at this time. And I was like, man, if only I just wasn't ready back then, but it was just like, okay, I know that I need to do this. And so 2020 was when I, actually like got further education in the functional and integrative medicine path. And so I had like the education, but not the business experience. Like I had no idea where to start. So definitely it was a drawn out process from then. Kind of ruminating and thinking about and always like, okay, how do I get to this point, like this anchor of like I need to grow my own business. So I would say 2023 is kind of when I like took action and got that ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, from talking to people on this podcast and just working with entrepreneurs, like I do notice that theme of sometimes it just starts with, I have the idea, but then I have to figure out like, in what format am I going to bring this to the world? Like, what's the timing? Like, and a lot of people are typically juggling two things at the same time. It's like one foot in entrepreneurship, one foot in the regular job. And then eventually it makes sense to do 2 feet in. So now would you say you are 2 feet into womb health, or do you feel
Yeah.
like there's where would you
Yeah.
say you are in that journey?
So yeah, definitely was like weaning out of the hospital system, but March 8th, so another like serendipitous date, it was Women's Day, like International Women's Day, and I didn't realize it, but March 8th was my last day in corporate healthcare, and and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I feel empowered. This is what I've always wanted to do for myself, and it's Women's Day. Um, and so yeah, that's when I said, okay, I get to like do this for me and serve women the way I want to. Um, Very interesting that like it was definitely a big and like celebrated day, but then the next 3 days or so, there was a very unexpected grieving period that I went through, and it was something that consciously I kind of knew as like saying goodbye to birth, which is huge for me. But it wasn't until I had crossed that bridge, where the reality set in and the sense of a deep loss really was like overwhelming and I wasn't prepared for it. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to name that and mention that like I gave myself that time to grieve and reached out to my community. Honestly, it just felt like I had retired without a celebration, without like some kind of honor. And, a part of me was like, gosh, this feels a little selfish, but this is like a huge part of my life that I was like closing a door to and felt like, oh, I really needed like community support and to be celebrated. And so, um, I kind of reached out and got that for myself, and it really was healing for me in that grieving process. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that because that is like the sometimes the not talked about part of making a big transition in your life and your career is like there is the grieving period of leaving behind not just the work but also the identity and the community, the people, like just it's and even just the safety and the comfort of like I know how to do this. I'm good at this. And now I'm going to go into something that feels like stretchier. It's going to go into more of the unknown. So yeah, I definitely have experienced that myself in my own journey as well.
Yep.
So you mentioned you went from birth, right, and decided I'm going to actually take it a step back in the process and actually go before that to really look at fertility. Something I had noticed, just reading into your site and just your bio and all of that was noted experiencing or seeing women dismissed in the conventional fertility system being something that activated something in you of like, I'm actually going to be part of this. So why the focus on fertility, and what did you think you witnessed, or what did you witness that really sparked like, I have to be part of this?
Yeah, I'd say that fertility is like one aspect of it. It really was like the whole spectrum of women's healthcare, where women were being dismissed and not really, the model is not set up for deep listening and receiving like our entire like intricate and this ecosystem of a body that like needs supportive healing, right? It's you go in to your doctor, you get your pap smear, you get your breast exam, and then birth control or thyroid medication or whatever, like pains, dismissive comments, like that's what happens in the clinical setting, and we need so much more than that. And so really I've always known that because of like cultural background and like not being tied to pharmaceuticals and this whole system of like a pill for every ill. Like growing up in Guam, it's been, I have a tummy ache, let me give you a coconut oil rub on your tummy. Like, and then when I had chronic ear infections, my grandmother was like picking her herbal omelet in the backyard and making some churro medicine for me to drink. And so just having that upbringing has, I've always had this anchor of like, okay, there's this other way of medicine and supporting healing. And so once I actually found out about integrative and functional medicine and this holistic approach, and of course, like knowing that there is a certification and there's a body of research around all this, I was like, okay, I'm in, like diving in there. And so that really is what allowed me to like shift my perspective and really clearly see that there is so much more that women are not getting in, for women's health in the OBGYN setting. And then when it comes to fertility, it's the same model where it's like, okay, we're seeing the reproductive system as like a part of the body that's like segmented away, because we have these specialties as OBGYNs and reproductive endocrinologists. And so they're looking at the uterus and the ovaries and the sex hormones and then maybe the thyroid, but that's about it. I mean, I'd say you're lucky if they're looking at your thyroid, right? And so, if they can't find any answers within that system, then, it's IUI or IVF and synthetic hormones to like force the body into getting pregnant. And, I think that when women are struggling with fertility, it's like, it's not a diagnosis. I wouldn't say it's a diagnosis, although it is in the medical, like Western conventional medicine model, but it's more a symptom of like what's going on in our bodies. It's like one of those red flags, like, hey, okay, I can't get pregnant, but it really means that there's stuff going on in other parts of our ecosystem. That
Yeah.
that's the piece that conventional medicine, Western medicine really misses. Yeah.
Okay, so the women that do come to you then, and they're like, I need your help. I'm guessing they've tried other potential routes, right? Or maybe their doctor says everything looks normal or whatever it might be, or they're maybe on the path to IVF. But what do you notice about the women that find you? Maybe what part of their fertility journey are they on, and why are they craving this alternative path to getting pregnant?
Yeah, there's this whole like spectrum. I'd say like, maybe majority of the women fall like kind of somewhere in this middle area where they have a list of symptoms, but their doctors haven't done anything with them because there's no like diagnosis to attach to it, right? And so they have this list of symptoms. They've been told, okay, yeah, the labs look normal, everything's normal. Keep trying. And they obviously like don't feel good and they've been trying and they've already, been doing all these things. They're like advocating for themselves and doing the research and things just aren't like clicking. They're not connecting. And so the women that are coming to me are like, okay, I know there's something more out there. And I would say majority of them still don't know much about like functional and integrative medicine, but there is this like deep sense and deeper like felt knowing that I know that IVF isn't my only option. Like that just doesn't seem right. I know that there's more that can be done, especially when their questions aren't getting answered in the clinic. They're like, okay, I need to understand what's going on here, and they're not getting that full picture. So, yeah, I'd say that's majority of the women coming to me. I mean, there's lots of um, different reasons why people come to me. Majority of them don't necessarily have a diagnosis, but they know that there's something going on. So they're looking for answers, I'd say.
Yeah. And I remember seeing, something about your philosophy and approach. It's not it's basically combining science and intuition, right? Yes, there's a place, of course, for science, but there's also a big place for intuition, right? And being able to know, like, even though it says normal or I'm not getting my questions answered, I know that there's something perhaps under the surface. So like, yeah, so important to get to the root and to question, right? And like see different people, see different doctors, like really maybe sometimes not take the first answer as the answer. So,
Mhm.
what are some things as you've gotten deeper into this work, either myths or things that you feel like generally people think that you're like, that's actually like whether they're myths about fertility or just things that you feel like were eye opening to you when you found out maybe the truth about them or just like, yeah, what are some things that you've learned that have been surprising to you?
Okay, surprising to me. Hmm. I think that when I was first diving into all of this, because I've been doing women's health for so long, I've always focused on the women. And so actually when I first started offering fertility support and coaching, I didn't really pay attention to the men. And I knew that there was like, a nice ebook that I had, researched and put together for them. Um, but, in that whole process, I learned that, okay, men are just as important. They are important. They're like 50% of this equation. And I would say like sperm health has declined by 60% since the 1940s, is what the research shows. And so as women, we always feel like, we are the homes for our babies. We bear the weight of the responsibility of pregnancy and, everything that comes next as mothers. And so there's always this yeah, I mean, I think it's just a very personal feeling. It's good to take ownership of your own health as a mother or mother to be, but to not ignore the male factor. And I think that so many women who are inquiring and messaging me in my DMs, they're like, "Oh, my husband's fine. He has a child from a previous relationship," or um, he had a semen analysis done and everything looks good. And so there's certain red flags there because sperm health changes. We are like not like stagnant beings. We're like dynamic and always changing. And so when it comes to sperm health, the sperm maturation phase is just 72 days. So anything that the male, your man does starting today is going to affect the sperm 72 days from now. And so that's always changing. So it might have been good like 2.5 years ago when you last had your baby, but today could be a different picture. So yeah, to not ignore the male factor um, of all of this. And yeah, I would say like the biggest, if I could share one more,
Yeah.
or unless you have questions, I'm happy to.
No, yeah, I would love to know.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, so the men are part of the equation. That's not solely women and fertility in the mix.
Yeah, yeah.
What else?
Um, and then the biggest myth kind of goes back to the difference with like, conventional model and this integrative functional model, where the, you know, reproductive system is just like, kind of put in a box. And that's where I I really lean into trying to help women understand that this reproductive system is more of this luxury hormone that we don't actually need to survive, right? Like we need our gut, we need our livers, we need our heart and our brain. And anytime that there is any kind of imbalance on any of those other vital systems, our body is very wise and intelligent and will always prioritize your life first. And then that's when that luxury hormone gets put on the back burner because it's like, I do not need to put energy and resources into this area of reproduction. I need to focus on my gut healing. I need to focus on like liver detoxification. And that's directly tied to hormone metabolization, which then turns off the hormone balance that kind of shuts down the reproductive system. So it's like so many different layers of connection where, the struggles with infertility and having that delay of pregnancy is really purposeful and designed with this intelligence of keeping you alive and well. And not everyone knows how to they don't understand it that way, and they also don't under like know what symptoms to look out for, and like, how do I know I have gut health issues or hormone imbalances? And um so that's the the piece that I really like to paint for women when I get on calls with them when they're interested in this kind of coaching, is helping them understand like it's not just about making a baby. It's like, first see how can we get you back into alignment and restore overall health so that your body is like so thriving and so well that your reproductive system is like, okay, give me something, like give me a baby, I'm so ready for this.
Yes,
And that's when pregnancy.
I love that. And I know even on one of our chats recently, we were both talking about like gut health and like gut testing, like GI map testing, right? And what I love about what is happening just in women's healthcare, right, or just healthcare in general, right, is like the access to other testing, right, and like functional testing and other practitioners that are able to do this, and so people don't have to just rely on whatever the doctor is going to get like tests. That's going to be the test, right? They can kind of proactively proactively look at like what else is happening under the surface. And I hear that theme again of like going a step back, right? Like actually even before fertility and reproductive health, it's like let's even look at what happens, the other things that are happening, just getting it again down to the root,
Mhm,
which rather than the this is happening, so kind of it's not as easy of a map
mhm,
that when it comes to fertility and reproductive health too. So
yeah,
um, I know that a lot of the work you do is also around lifestyle, right, and being able to create, like you said, the optimal conditions that are happening. So when you think about women that may be listening that are either wanting to conceive or in the process of conceiving, what are some things that you would recommend just from a lifestyle perspective of like starting to optimize your fertility, maybe before you're even there, right? There yet, right? And like wanting to
mhm,
start a family. What are some things that you do and that you recommend for your clients?
yeah. So when I think of all the things that we can do in the fertility space, there is a very wide spectrum. So if I can just like give you follow me on this like overview. It's like on one end of the spectrum, there's epigenetics. This is like deeper investigation. If it's not so clear, how deep do we need to dig to get answers? And, epigenetics, autoimmune activity, deeper testing, PRP for ovarian rejuvenation. And then, some people truly do need IVF. So it's like, okay, where are we at in the spectrum? Where do you fall? So that's like one end. And then the other end um, is what what and more like a beyond the physical level and more emotional and potential like traumas that can be stored in the womb space or the heart space, or where in the body are we like not allowing ourselves to receive, not allowing ourselves to heal. And so there's this energetic level that where we can like cover all the bases of physical health and optimizing that so that you are having great hormone balance and good egg quality, and good health, reproductive health, but then what is our heart or what is our mind? What are the stories that come up around this process? And so there's so much that goes in between that. But I would say in the middle, I want to help you remember that you are human, and we need to kind of ground back into our roots of like, what does it mean to simply be human? And what are the key ingredients that I need for survival? So it's like clean water, clean air, clean food, and good sleep, sunshine, and a strong community and people that love you. And so it's like these foundations. The first call that I get on with all of my clients is always going back to these foundations of like, and it's so basic. It really is going back to the basics and like unraveling everything that we've kind of like built up around our minds and our lives, with just the craziness that is going on in society. Right? There's just so much, technology is booming, so much on our calendars. And it's just like, we need to step away, step back and like actually remember what it means to be a healthy, thriving human. And so it's not underestimating the simple things of sleep timing, eating on time, not skipping meals, and making sure that we're giving ourselves those foundational needs like consistently and driving in those habits. And then from there, we start building and seeing where each individual is on the spectrum of needs, and start weaving those into their healing plan in a strategic order where we know that I do have a system, to like support the physical body, because there's certain layers that have to come before, say, we work on egg quality. But that's something that I'd say is every single first call I take is like circadian rhythm, food timing, how are we living on a daily basis, and really honoring, this rhythm that is ancient, right? It's like it's what's kept our species alive, and we need to like, anchor into that routine.
Oh,
And
so
Mother
beautiful.
Earth, I
Back to
mean,
basics, back to
yeah,
basics, foundations.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I know that you see, or I see on some of your shares on social media about like these success stories, like people that are getting pregnant, or all these kind of like fertility wins, reproductive, women's wins that are happening. So, is there maybe a success story that comes to mind of one of your clients, or perhaps I know that you not wanting to share too much about their experience, but does something come to mind when you think of like, yeah, it's working, right? Clients are experiencing either getting pregnant, staying pregnant. Does a story or a client come to mind?
I would say that in one of my early clients, there's a few that are coming to mind right now. I'd say one, shout out to Krista. She's given me a testimonial, so I feel like I have permission to name her. She was at the Well Fest where I did the workshop,
Oh
Womb Awakening
yeah.
workshop. And she sent me a beautiful message just like 2 weeks after that workshop, where she set an intention. She had been trying to conceive and make a baby. And so during that womb workshop, where we did focus on somatics and breath work and womb healing, she set an intention to heal her womb. And 2 weeks later, she informed me that she got pregnant, and does like intuitively feel that it was because of her experience in that womb awakening workshop. So I was like, that is beautiful. And it's an ode to like, we there are systems and there is science and there is time for healing, but there's also, we can like, eh, uh time is not a limiting factor as well, right? Like things can happen immediately. Um and then the other story that I'd like to name, Ellen, she came to me. She'd been trying for a couple years to conceive. And so we worked on all the things. She had PCOS. And so we managed her PCOS and got her ovulating regularly, and, a few other things we worked on. But within 3.5 months' time, she sent me her positive pregnancy, like celebratory text, and that was amazing. And then 2 weeks later, she shared her story of going to the ER because she had some low back pain, abdominal pain. And so immediately I was like, oh no, is this like a miscarriage or what's going on here? And she continued to tell her story. She had a little bit of bleeding, and then they did an ultrasound. And then she's like, Janelle, there were two babies in there. There were two
My
heartbeats. And I was like,
gosh.
so I was just like, wow, it's, early on as I started doing this fertility work, I was like, okay, one of my first clients gets pregnant in 3.5 months with twins. And I was like, I'm just going to take that as a good omen. This is like amazing work. And so she's got two boys. They're like 8 months old now. And yeah, such a blessing. It's
That's
like
beautiful.
yeah, and like the moment of birth as a midwife has always been like just so profound and so rewarding and just so full of everything and love and everything. And also these like moments of helping women conceive. It's different, but almost feels even more powerful because honestly, the struggle of labor and birth is a lot and is definitely hard and is a major transformation, but the struggle of infertility can last years and years and years. And there's so many layers to that. And when they actually get through to the other side of this imaginative dream that they never thought could be possible actually happens, it's just like amazing, just like
Yeah.
it is amazing work.
Yeah.
And I'm
Because now you get to see the whole side of this, a whole other part of the story versus the moment that the baby comes into the world, you're hearing, like when you talked about that spectrum, like the part that I was really interested in is like that energetic side that you're talking about, right? Like just the being open to receive, like, calling in, I think you said something earlier of like ushering in the
yeah,
souls, right? It's like there is such that energetic component to the birth portal, right? That like is not talked about in just like, your prenatal appointments,
you're right.
right? So I love that that is a piece. And even that womb awakening workshop was so full circle about that is Krista actually came to do prenatal yoga with me when she was pregnant, and now she's like part of my membership. So I've seen
Yeah,
her, or my mom's group. So I've seen like that evolution of her through pregnancy and now,
amazing.
as a mom. So it's so cool.
Yeah,
um Okay, so I wanted to circle back a little bit more to your story because, oftentimes when people see a business or a coach or whatever it might be, that, it is a journey to get there, right? To make the step of like, I'm going 2 feet in to my business, to this work, to my calling. There's a lot under the surface, even what you mentioned before around that grief of leaving, having your last day. But I do truly believe that starting a business is like the spiritual journey, one of the biggest spiritual journeys to go on. So I would love to hear just like some of the growth lessons, maybe challenges that you've experienced putting on this new or stepping into this new identity. And yeah, this kind of new part of your calling.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have a whole nother session on this one because this is really deep. It's very, very personal. It this wow. Okay, where do I start? When I decided to do fertility, there was a part of that inspiration to give myself the best chance and the best preparedness for pregnancy. And so, a part of this baby, this business that I've um nurtured was of course for me too, right? And so in that is a whole nother story. But I would say it's so interesting because it's a personal story of like my own fertility journey, but then also the business development of fertility coaching. And um I'm gonna try to distill this because I know that we don't have that much time, but it's like the imposter syndrome was like none other because I was like living my life and doing what I thought was taking care of myself and my fertility. And even knowing everything that I do about fertility, and still struggled. And so, as I was building my business of being this coach and this guide to help other women successfully conceive, to heal their bodies, I was like in this place of not knowing where I was going. I felt like I was going deeper and deeper down into this dark hole, this like really deep well that wasn't pretty. It was very stressful. It was the most stressed that I'd ever been in my entire life. And I didn't really, it took me so long to realize what I was going through. Um, and finally, the other part of like being a practitioner and a coach and, like this is my identity of like helping other women, I kind of turned inward and was trying to do this all for myself. And there was one day where the stress just like reached its limit. I had my breakdown. I was like, oh my God, I can't keep doing, trying this for myself. It was not supporting my business at all because with that imposter syndrome. And I finally came to a point where I reached out for support. And as I was filling out an application with another fertility doctor, naturopath, so many like clarities came through in the sense that like wow, I had been denying myself support. And I was writing in this application like I as a midwife would never go say like, "Hey, I got all the experience. I can deliver a baby all on my own. I don't need you. Okay, I got
Mhm.
this." I would never say that as a midwife, right? And in fact, like midwives are always surrounded by so many of their midwife colleagues and friends and getting as much support as they can in that process. And so I realized in my fertility journey, I was like, I had been denying myself support. I had my giant ass ego in the way of like thinking that I could do it all on my own. And so that was my breaking point of like finally crawling myself out of that dark hole. And then I'd say, yeah, it was always a journey of just being honest with myself and not putting the pressure on myself, and also realizing that just because I am too on this journey doesn't mean that I cannot be a supportive guide for other people, right? It's like, whose cardiologist ever had a heart attack? And, like, does that mean they can't help you like live and repair your heart? Like, there is something to say about lived experience, but also, like, as a midwife, I haven't birthed a baby, right? But I like know so intimately what women go through, and just because I guess of who I am and how I'm an empath and the energy exchange and probably the connection with past life, ancestral guidance, all of this stuff has really allowed me to like tune in deeply with that without having that experience. And yeah, so I finally have kind of really have come to this place of ditching and the imposter syndrome. And, there's definitely a healing journey and story that goes along with that, that is very profound, but have able to step out of that and, take care of myself and separate my story from my business. And that has like really allowed me to, be more confident for my clients and not have my own story attached to how I'm helping them. And so things have definitely shifted for the better, but it wouldn't have done that without like my own personal journey of healing and giving giving me that time to do it. And I guess if I could just say one more thing is that like never did I think that I would hmm okay, maybe there was a little thought of like, okay, can I ever get pregnant? I had these thoughts before ever trying to conceive. But never did I think that I would go through the amount of suffering that I had on my own fertility journey. And so, the whole full spectrum is not just like in theory and not studied and not read through books, but it has also been like lived through my experience. And I feel like that's how I know that this work is so needed, because not everyone has, a mental, emotional, energetic block and might not need that work, whether they do or, like there's always opportunity. And not every woman leans into that, and not everyone is going to really necessarily align with all of the medical epigenetics, all these studies, but I I am able to meet women where they're at and, you know, offer them this platter of like, okay, where are you on this spectrum and where do we need to start?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that and just opening up about that because I know it's not easy. And I also know that the strength that it takes to do this work while you're also in this work, right? It's a reminder of like there's a kind of the light and the shadow of both, right? It keeps you hungry to learn, hungry to know, just like to get to the roots of all the full spectrum. But at the same time, it is also like a constant reminder, right? And separating those two of like my story and other story is takes a lot of work and energy. So just honoring the strength and the courage and just the commitment to this work. Like you said, it's and I can feel it from you all the time. Like this is a call. This is bigger than a call. Right? This is you are in your purpose right now, right? So it's
Mhm.
like that continues to kind of bring you back. And even what you mentioned about seeking support and I'm always a big like proponent of like coaches need coaches for everything. Coaches need a full team of people, right? They need therapists, they need other coaches. If you want to, whatever aspect of your life it is, whether it's fertility, money, mindset, relationships, it's like seeking that support. And, coaches I think are great people to be coached because they know the value of it, right? They see it
Yeah.
firsthand. So yeah, I think that lived experience that you have right now is making you just even a better coach, right? Because it's bringing the full plate to the table. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If I could, I mean, everything's meant to be. It's like, would I wish this upon anyone or myself? Like, no, I was just like, like that was hard suffering. And I think a part of the the shift of the healing was realizing that that deep pain and suffering that I was like kind of trapped in um was actually a choice that I had made. If we like kind of think of the bigger picture, it's like, I mean, really, we're kind of doing everything that we're doing is always a choice, whether we know it or not. And how we come to make these choices, we don't always understand because there's like the subconscious and so many different factors. But I came to this point of knowing that like my suffering, this deep suffering, was the same, just the same as this like infinite self love. And I was able to merge the two polarities where it's like, okay, this is the thing, the suffering that I wanted to get rid of. And I want to come back to my wholeness and to my truth and self love. And I came to a point where I was realizing that out of love for myself and like wanting this pregnancy and motherhood so much, like this greatest desire of my life, was me, trying so hard to the point that I suffered, and that was just a reflection of love for myself. And so when I actually realized that it was all coming from the same place, I was able to like release it and forgive myself and understand it from like a totally new light.
Mhm.
And that's really in an instant where everything shifted with my experience of fertility, subfertility, and all of the baggage that was connected to my business and huge transformation. I mean, it's just like night and day, and I feel like myself again. Like I got myself
Mhm.
back, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's almost one of the most important things that anyone can do on their fertility journey is like find themselves again, whatever that means
Mhm. Mhm.
for
Mm.
them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I know women are listening right now and they're like definitely can resonate or they know someone in their life like that could resonate, right? Or they're like, I'm going to share this episode with someone that needs to hear it. But I also know there's a lot of people that are like, how can I work with her now? So, as we wrap up our conversation today, I do want to have you share a little bit about like what are the paths to work with you, whether that's I know that you work with women all over, so like it's not necessarily you have to live in a certain place. So tell us a little bit about what paths there are to connect and work with you.
Sure. Yeah. So I I do one-on-one fertility coaching for couples, and so we're not forgetting about the men, so it really is for the family, for the male and female factor fertility. It's comprehensive, and it's all virtual, and so people are like, "Oh, how do you do the labs, and how is this, not a, in-clinic thing?" And, I'm able to order labs remotely, and we can also do the advanced functional tests that gets shipped to your house, back to the lab, and then we review it together on calls. And so one-on-one calls, I have really when women decide they want to step into this transformation and do this like root cause healing. Of course, they have to be ready to like put in the work because it's not like the traditional doctor's visit and getting a medication. And so definitely it's like has to be backed by motivation and discipline and like that willingness to be like, okay, I'm with you on this. We got to work together. It's a partnership. And and yeah, and then we have you commit to a 4-month program, package, and that's just the minimum amount of time that I ask you to do the work so that we can have the impact on egg quality. I talked about like sperm quality being 72 days, maturation cycle. For eggs, it's at least 3 months. And so, everything we do today, it's going to show up 3 to 4 months from now. So we start with 4 months of working together, and then the journey doesn't end there unless it's like I'm seeing that you're totally ready to go get pregnant. I'm like, okay, go have fun, go do it. But there's definitely, opportunity to continue the care one-on-one after that phase. And it's my goal to make sure that we, really address the whole picture so that we give you the highest chance at being able to conceive naturally. And yeah,
Beautiful.
so that's, really the meat and the juice of what I have to offer is that one-on-one fertility coaching.
Amazing. So we'll drop that in to the show notes, your website, your Instagram, all the links to get in touch. But I want to thank you for coming on. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. Like so much juice in it, and just so much of your story that I know bits of it, right? But to hear it like this was just really really inspiring, and I know it's going to be a really powerful episode for people as well. So thank you, and I'll see you in a few months at our retreat. So I'm excited to reconnect with you in person as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liv. I
All
do
right.
have the two-part protocol, like, if people are, wanting to just dip their toes in and see what this is like, um, the Awaken Your Womb morning routine and fertility gut reset also. And so that
Ooh,
link,
yes.
I think, will be shared, and
Yes.
just as a way to get into, my world and get more fertility tips along the way.
Awesome. All
Yeah,
right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review, and don't forget to subscribe. Learn more at enowellnesscollective.com and connect with us on Instagram at enowellnesscollective.